And ladies, you know, feel free, unless you've got a jackhammer in the background or something like that, feel free to keep yourselves unmuted, whatever you feel comfortable with. But as we go through this, I'm going to kind of go through topics, and I'm going to ask periodically if you've got any questions, okay? And I'm going to bring, you know, Charlene and Amy in here and there to help. So this is just going to be very fluid. It's going to be very informal because it's just us, right? So at any point in time, if you've got a question related to what it is we're talking about, please let me know, and then we'll have time at the end again for questions, you know, whatever pops into your mind. So an overview of our program. We are a summer language immersion for Indiana high school students only. We're not open to students in other states. Students can participate after their sophomore, junior, or senior year in high school. So we do have anywhere between maybe 5 to 10% of our students every summer are graduating. You know, they've just graduated from high school, so graduating seniors, we might call them rising college freshmen. Most of our students who participate have just finished their junior year, about 70 to 75%, and then somewhere around 20% are generally have just completed their sophomore year, so they would be rising high school juniors. Our programs are all 5 or 6 weeks, and they take place during the months of June and July. We are 100% language immersion. That means from the time the students arrive in the host country until the time they come home, they're expected to be in their target language. And we offer 5 languages. Traditionally we've had German, Japanese, and German, French, and Spanish since the very beginning. We added Chinese in 2014 and Japanese in 2017. So I'll talk to you a little bit about what the program actually looks like as well, and Charlene can certainly do that, talk to you about the language classes, the excursions, the host families, and so forth. So we'll have an opportunity to talk a lot about that as we move forward. We began in 1962, so we are now 59 years old. This is a little known secret about IU, is that IU actually had a formal study abroad program for high school students before it had an overseas study office for university students. So we've been around for a long time. And in our history, we've had over 8,300 students from all over the state of Indiana participate in our programs. So if you're not familiar with our website yet, I wanted to have the opportunity to take you here real quick. I'm going to, okay, so tell me if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes, thumb up, okay. So this is the homepage of our website. We have a tab over here for teachers and counselors. There's different resources. There's, you know, cool things there that you might want to check out. If you scroll down on our homepage, you can see our promo video. This is a nice thing to show your students if they just kind of want to get to know what we're about. It's about 8 minutes long. Pretty cool, lots of different people speaking in it. And if you come over here to about the program, this is where you can find a lot of cool information. So under IUHPFL Experience, we just launched this summer. Amy and I had some time on our hands since we didn't have programming. And we thought, wouldn't it be fun to reach out to alums from the program and see if they might like to send us little videos about their experience. So we've had people submit, and we're continuing to get videos, or, you know, we're encouraging people to do this, but they're from different years, you know, different generations. And the videos are 2 to 5 minutes long, generally, just talking about their experience. And so I encourage you to, you know, check these out. You might find something that you really like here. And if you know of someone who's an alum of the program, Lorena, maybe your daughter, right? Maybe they'd like to participate in this project and get a video on there. That would be really wonderful. The instructors also during the programs, you know, Charlene would know all about this. The instructors, one instructor on the program is responsible for putting together the blog for that program site. So that would have been Charlene's responsibility for the Sambrio site. And you could come here, as a matter of fact, and you can see her blog. And you can go through little by little, and you can see all the photos, everything that they did during that program. So that's another really valuable resource there for you, okay? Photo and video contests. These are videos and photos that the students themselves submit during the program, after the program, I'm sorry, that kind of encapsulate their experience. They're generally 5 minutes long, something like that, 3 to 7 minutes long, depending. And they're just wonderful. So we get all these submissions, we get submissions of photos, we get submissions of videos, and then we sit down, as a group here in the office, our little, panel of judges, and we select, the winners and the runners up and so forth. And so these kids have got a lot of talent, and there's nothing more exciting than seeing the program through their eyes. That's really what I like about this. It's wonderful to see what it is that they saw. So photos and videos from all over the world. Typically when I'm doing a presentation like this, I will show at least one of these videos. It's kind of complicated through Zoom, and so I just wanted to show you where they're located, and you can of course check them out yourself anytime. Program sites and dates. So we do have our program date set for 2021, except for Graz, which I will determine that those dates will be worked out this week or next. But you can see we're not having programming, unfortunately, in Latin America this next summer because of COVID, and that makes us very sad. But you can see the other programs the dates have been set at least. And then as far as funding, you can see what the program fees are planned to be. We've kept the program fees at $5,300, which was the same rate as 2020. We did not raise them for 2021, logically, since we weren't able to have programming. So if you would please unmute yourself and let me know if you have any questions at this point. Is there anything that I or Amy or Charlene could answer for you about what I've just covered?
About the cost and the program fee, does that come from the student directly to you? Does it go to another program? How does that work? And do they apply first before they would start paying? Or I don't know exactly.
Okay.
I don't even know what questions to ask, honestly.
Yes, exactly. That's okay. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. So I'll start off, and I'm sure Amy will have something here to add, I would imagine. Application materials are due around December 6th, as you know. And so after we determine students who've been accepted into the program, we make those announcements generally around January 20th.
Okay.
We'll see what our timeline will be this year. We have to kind of keep things fluid, of course, but generally that's how it works. Once a student knows they've been accepted, then they can apply for financial assistance if they think that it would be something that they would qualify for. They fill out the FAFSA.
Okay.
Online. Okay, we use the EFC code, the estimated family contribution code. And then, for students who have need, we try to give them some award. The most that we've ever given to any student is $1,500.
Okay.
And that is usually, a situation where there's a dire level of need there. The smallest awards can be $250, $500, something like that. So we do the best that we can, but we really, we stress to students, it is absolutely possible for them to fundraise. Students go out, they contact their local businesses, they reach out to family members, they do fundraisers, they work part-time jobs. I mean, we've had students who are just incredibly motivated, and they raise a lot of money. So anyone who'd like to chime in on this about fundraising, please do, because I know you teachers have seen a lot of activity along those lines as well.
And this may seem like sort of a silly question because I really don't know how all this works, but for the students that did not get to go last, term or whatever it was, do they pay beforehand? Do they get reimbursed? How does that work because of the pandemic?
Right. So one of the things that we had to do this last program cycle was wrap up, right? Anyone who had paid for the program had to be refunded. So anyone who was signed up to go in 2020 and intends to go for 2021, they're starting at square one again in terms of their payments because everything was refunded to them.
Okay.
Another thing is if a student had received an award for 2020, that award will be granted for 2021. Okay. So
they don't have to reapply.
They do not have to reapply.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good news.
And I'm sure you probably have some things here you'd like to add.
The thing that I would say about payments is they're spread out starting February 1 up through a couple weeks before departure. So they make payments, 4 different payments to program fees. So they're spread out. So even if you don't have $5,300 in January or February. Hopefully you'll be able to come up with it by the end of May.
Yeah, we do our best to work with students, as Amy's saying, give them the time to bring the funds together. Airfare and program fees are separate costs, of course, where the program fees are paid to IU. The airfare is paid directly to our travel agent, which is Travel Leaders. So we provide all of that information to students, and we will not be even thinking about booking group flights until spring. So normally we have those flights set, and we know the costs, we know everything by now. And of course, that's a piece that we have not been able to work on yet. So Lorena, you had a question?
No, just an advice to the new teachers. It's really nice if you can, we used to invite Lonnie to come and talk to our freshmen. So we start putting the seed on these students when they are in freshman year. And so they have 3 years to save money. Okay, so it's amazing just to see all these students now that since Lonnie start coming, they still remember, oh, we saw that in freshman year. And then of course, as teachers always tell them every year. So they have 3 years to save the money. So it's, it really helps, especially, with some kids who don't have that $5,000 like that. So if you're gonna start the program, it will be nice if you start doing it in freshman year.
Okay.
As a goal to do it in their junior year.
And I agree with that, because Lonnie has
I'm
come
sorry.
into Poly and done that too for us. So thank you.
And because, Signature School does that, we and I knock on wood as I say it, right? Because I don't jinx it, Lorena, but we have a tremendous number of students every year from Signature who participate.
20 students every year, and we're a very small school with only 400 kids.
Yeah, easily.
And so and in fact, we send the most from the whole Southwest area. From high school who had 2,000 kids, they just send 1 or 2, and we send 20. So yeah, it's a big difference when you start telling them since freshman year, so they get prepared and excited.
Yeah. So that's our website. There's a lot there for you. So when you get a chance to take a look at it, I think you'll find a lot more that interests you. This is our building on the IU Bloomington campus. We've been in this building for around 30 years, something like that. We are just east of the MAC, the Musical Arts Center, off of South Jordan Avenue here. And what's really exciting for us, we know our students that they're all college bound, right? And they go to great schools. Hold that thought, Amy, I see you. They go to great schools. What's super exciting for us, of course, a little bit selfishly, is we love it when they come to IU Bloomington. we get to see them again, and they go into the language classes here on campus, and they attend our meetings, and they wear their t-shirts around campus, and we love it. And then if we can encourage them to go abroad again through IU Overseas Study, they share this building with us. So there's only 2 programs in this building right here that you're looking at, the Office of Overseas Study and our program. And if we can get them to go abroad again through IU, then that's it, right? I mean, that's really what we want to see. Our students are more likely to do a year abroad or a semester abroad than the average IU student. They're more likely to do multiple programs. They're more likely to do overseas study experiences in languages that they've just started studying at IU. So, they're really adventurous. And so IU appreciates us for that reason. And they are the shining stars in their language classrooms here on campus. We know that.
Yeah, because they major or minor in the language. They study abroad. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and by the time they get here, because of IU honors, they can test into higher levels. They can skip a lot of time here at the university level in their classes. And they may have to take 1 or 2 courses, and boom, they've got a minor, because that's how high they test because of the program. So
yes.
So, I don't have to tell you folks how important international experience is, but just so you know, when I'm giving presentations in high schools around the state of Indiana, I'm talking to students about this. I oftentimes will have an auditorium full of students, and I'm letting them know, I'm talking to each and every one of you, no matter what. I'm talking to you. This is really important, and this is what this can do for you. Amy, let me back up. I'm so sorry. You had your hand raised, and I grazed over it.
It was so silly, and I apologize. I was just gonna point out where our windows were on that building, so it's not important.
No, no, do it, do it.
I think that's
Well,
really
I can't point because my mouse doesn't work, but that's me, right, Lonnie?
no,
Mhm.
well, let me think. No, this is the second floor.
No, it's the third. Oh, I can't even tell which. Yours is that little tiny window right there.
I'm here,
Yes.
and I think you're back here maybe.
Yeah, I think you can't see my window.
I think you can't, yeah. So we're way up here on the very top floor.
Okay. It looks like
I used to come into this building when I was, a student here, because they would have international programming in the building. And this top floor where we are right now was really scary. It was like your grandma's attic where you never wanted to go. If you expected to see taxidermy animals in the corners. I mean, it was really frightening. And it's so much better now. Like they've completely.
Where's Jacqueline? Where's Jacqueline's office? Do you have Jacqueline's office?
Yes, I'm in
There
Jacqueline's
you go.
office.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's really.
I know exactly then.
Exactly where I am. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I'm glad you shared that, Amy. So Charlene, is there anything that you'd like to add at this point? We're talking about international experience. We're talking about high proficiency in other languages. What are some things that you've seen with the students that you've worked with? And of course, you can certainly speak to your own international experience.
Yes, I'm doing study abroad right now, and I have been for about 10 years. No, I did actually. So I'm from France, and when I was 17, I did a year abroad in New York to learn English. So I have this experience, and then I went back to France to do my undergrad. The school, so I did that through EF. It's a very, very popular school, but IUHPFL is 1,000 times better. And I don't say that because I used to work for them. It really is. So what EF does not have, for example, and I think all the other schools don't have, is the language commitment. So for me, IUHPFL really is the best, even if it's just for that. There are other great things about this program, but the language commitment is not something we advertise only. It's something that is very real. So I can tell you a little bit about this. Students commit to be in the target language 100% of the time, and no English is allowed. We usually tell them from the moment you feel the wheels of the plane land, then English is forbidden until we take off again 6 weeks later. And it scares them a little bit, but after a few days, they're usually fine with it. It's the thing that really helps them become fluent by the end of 6 weeks, which sounds crazy. And as a language teacher, before I didn't think I would be able to say that you can become fluent in 6 weeks, but it happens. So when we start the program, the first few days, you have all kinds of levels. And in Saint-Brieuc, I've experienced people who are already pretty fluent and others who are really struggling with the language. But by the time we go to Paris, so at the very end of the program, before we fly back to the US because the airport is in Paris, we spend 2 or 3 days there. And for me, being in Paris is the time where I know that I can talk to all the students without having my teacher speech. You know what I mean? Like when you're a teacher of a language, sometimes you have to dumb down the sentences, make sure that you speak in a way that your students will understand. Well, by the time we're in Paris, I don't do that anymore. I speak to them as I would speak to my sister in France. So this is really incredible. So yeah, I think the language commitment really helps with that. And we really, really emphasize that. We tell the host families, you cannot speak to them in English. Sometimes they have teenagers at home, French teenagers who hope to practice their English, with American teens, but we tell them they can't. And we really emphasize the consequences that, our students would suffer, not only linguistically with their development of the language, but also because we do have in place some, I don't know if we want to, disciplinary, measures.
We'll cover that here in a moment,
Okay.
Charlene.
Okay.
I'll come back to you on that. So that's wonderful.
Good question. With all of the technology that's available, how do you disconnect them from their families and the English?
Oh yeah.
I thank you for that, Tammy, and I will get to that because we're going to talk about the honor code in depth here. Yeah, that's one of the trickiest parts of our program. So,
but students are very thankful. Let me tell you, they enjoy so much to be disconnected.
Yes, exactly. So this is what we have for our 2021 programming. This is what we have planned. These program sites, as I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, we are not going to be able to have any programming in Latin America this summer, which makes us very sad. Our Saint-Brieuc is actually our only remaining original program site. When we started in 1962, one of our 3 programs was Saint-Brieuc. And so, like I said, Osaka is our newest. Hangzhou was 2014. We had a program in Germany, in Krefeld, Germany for 50 years. We've been in Graz since 2015 in Austria. Anyways, this is where we're planning to be this summer. So starting in Graz, I just wanted to share some photos with you, let you see where these communities are located on the map, just kind of give you a feel for where they are. Really beautiful part of the world. Obviously, I would say that about every program site. The students ask me, sometimes parents will ask me, what's your favorite program site? I would never be able to choose. I mean, they're really amazing places on the planet. Hangzhou, as you can see, we had 22 students signed up to go to Hangzhou this summer. It was to be, and I know, Jana, you'll find this very interesting. It was to be our largest program yet. We have been alternating. We decided what we would do is we would offer China one summer and then Japan the next summer, China and then Japan. And so, rotate them. And that strategy seemed like it was really going to work for us because rather than having 11 or 13 students signed up for Hangzhou, we had 22 students that were ready to go.
That's great.
Really felt like we had, we were there because of, the virus having been so devastating in that part of the world. I'm sad to say that currently we don't have any Chinese students in the mix. So we'll see what happens with that. So our 3 program sites in France, as you can see here on the map, where they're located, all very different communities. They have a different feel to them. Very, very beautiful. This photo here was taken near Brest. So anything else that you would want to add here, Charlene?
Like you said, they all have a different feel. It's nice because Brest is one of the major cities in France. It's very big. It's, Saint-Brieuc is, I would say, halfway between Brest and Saumur, Saumur being the smallest town. So you really get, the quaint feel of a very old, small town in France. So sometimes students, I talk with students who are thinking of participating in the program, and I tell them, if you want to be in a big city, maybe you can try to request to be placed in Brest and things like that. So it's nice that we have so much diversity in terms of cities and their sizes.
So what students can do for those, I'm glad that you mentioned that because it triggered something in my memory. Charlene, what students can do if they're French students is they can request on the application. They can say, I'd like to be in Saumur, or my brother was in Saint-Brieuc, so I don't want to go to Saint-Brieuc. I want a different experience than my brother had. So they can comment. For Spanish, normally we offer, and of course there's Japan, and just stunningly beautiful.
Beautiful.
And then in Spain, with Spanish, we normally have 3 different countries that students can rank. So they can say, Mexico is my first choice, then Spain, then Chile, or Chile is my first choice, then Spain, then Mexico, so they can rank them. We try as often as we can to give students their number 1 choice, but we would always give them their first or second choice. So that's normally how we do it. For this year, they would be able to say, gee, I'd really like to go to Ciudad Real if possible, those kinds of things. So they always have the opportunity to comment.
Yes.
And Amy and I do our best. When we're placing students, we try not to send them, if at all possible. It's really hard to do sometimes because we do have these schools like Signature School where we're getting so many students from a single school that there's no way we can separate them. They're going to be with their schoolmates, on site. But if Amy and I can, we will try to sprinkle the students around to different program sites. So, to echo some of the things that Charlene was talking about, we do have an honor code. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more here in a moment. We are a very academically focused program. The students live with host families. I'll talk to you about our 8 core values. We do a lot with team building, a lot with community engagement. So we are, you know, I'm not just saying this because I'm biased. I am biased, but we are a life-changing experience. These students come back and they are not the same kiddos. We are laying the groundwork for the rest of their lives, for the rest of their education and for their careers, for their personal lives. Once the students experience something like this, it changes them fundamentally. And they are forming friendships with these other students all over the state of Indiana. And Amy and I have seen, you know, these alums who maintain friendships with their cohorts for the rest of their lives. In 2017, in April of 2017, I attended a reunion here on the IU Bloomington campus of the 1966 Saint-Brieuc France group. So there's 32 individuals attended that. Some of them were alums of the program, others were spouses, and they brought memorabilia. They had music, they had, you know, and they had a reunion and they're very close. And that particular group has even set up their own scholarship endowment for the program, you know. So we see these lifelong connections and these friendships. And then, you know, the students are so incredibly close to their host families, you know. So they have a home away from home. They have a community in another country. They know their way around. They feel comfortable. They see themselves as members of that community, and they have family and they have friends there. So, you know, we hear the word global citizen, you know, but our students come back and they really do see themselves not only as citizens of Indiana and of the United States, but citizens of the world, right? They have a home in another place. Anything else that anyone wants to add here? I know the teachers can chime in. Amy, you might have something that you would want to say here. And if anyone has anything to chime in, please do.
I'm happy to. I'm just worried that it's gonna take extra time.
Well, we're at 6:48 right now, so we've got time. So if there's anything you'd like to say, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, just I mean, we do a lot of evaluation as well. Kids fill out evaluations of the program at different points, and parents fill out evaluations. And we get really high responses in terms of, you know, every once in a while, a kid might not like their host family, but they like all the other 9 aspects of the program or something like that. So, and we try to use a lot of conflict resolution if 2 kids get placed together and they're not doing great as roommates. You know, there's obviously it's not going to be perfect, but I would say 99% of the students come back and just say that it was a great experience.
Yeah, and I think you've touched on something really important there, Amy, in that it's a holistic experience. You know, I think Charlene was touching on this as well. It's not just about the academics. It's not just about, it's really, as Amy was saying, you know, how do you resolve conflicts? How do you think critically? How do you look at a challenge as an opportunity? You know, how do you push yourself personally, because your success in this program is up to you, right? So it's a lot about encouraging students, you know, to do the best they can. You know, wake up tomorrow, it's a fresh day. Yeah, you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. You're going to have those moments where you're going to feel like a complete idiot. We all do when we're in other countries, you know. But what do you do with that, you know? So it's a lot of character building as well, I would say. So
how do host families get chosen to participate?
I will touch on that too. Remember that question, because I'm going to have a slide here about host families. So just the basic tenets of the honor code, you know, there's the language commitment, as Charlene was saying, 100% in the target language. Now this means if the first week or two the student cannot put together a sentence, then so be it. That's the way it is. They are not allowed to go into English. We explain to them that it's frustrating. We're also very transparent. One thing that we have worked on during my time in the program is being very transparent. The students are divided into proficiency levels. For Chinese and Japanese, they have to have completed 2 academic years by the time they board the plane. For Spanish, French, and German, they have to have completed 3 academic years by the time they board the plane, okay? As we know, language programs differ from school to school. So whereas one student might have had quite a bit of time, you know, experience speaking the language, hearing the language regularly, another kiddo may not have had that experience yet. it's all okay. We let them know you're going to be divided, emerging, intermediate, or even advanced. We have heritage speakers participate in our program. Denise, I wish that had been the case with you when you were younger, because we have, you know, quite a few heritage speakers that participate in our program as well. And we just lay it all out there. We've taken the embarrassment away. We've let everybody know, even if you're really strong in the language, it doesn't mean you're not going to have challenges, because you will. Everybody has challenges. It's not just about the language, right? And if you're not very strong in the language, you still have all of these beautiful gifts and these strengths that you can share, right? So where are your strengths? Identify where those strengths are and ask yourself, how can I be the best possible teammate I can be? And we assure them, believe us, by the 3rd and 4th week, you're really going to be hitting the ground. You know, you're going to hit the ground. You're going to know that you've got this under control. You're speaking this language. You're feeling good about things. By the end of the program, you're going to be absolutely astounded at the progress that you've made. You just got to stick with it. You got to be patient with yourself, you know? Mm-hmm. And so those are the kinds of things that we're talking to students about through the program. Okay. So the smart devices. Okay, so the students do not have their smart devices during the program at all, Tammy. If they want to travel with their smartphone, they can do that, but they will hand it over to their instructors when they get to the program site. They do not get it back until the very end of the program. They get it the night before international travel so they can have it charged and ready to go. So the students, what we give them instead is we give them what we call a dumb phone. You know, it's those old phones that have no internet capability. The kids hate texting on them with a burning passion, which means that they have to oftentimes make phone calls, right? They have to call and use the target language. So that's kind of funny. We've had actually students in the past who say, I loved my program cell phone. I loved my dumb phone and I hated to give it up. You know, sometimes it's those old flip phones, you know, that we used to have. So it really gets them off the grid. They do get 1 hour per week on the internet. They can divide that up, 2 30-minute sessions or 1 60-minute session, and they're using the host family's computer in the home for that. Otherwise, there's no access to the internet. No books in English, no music in English. They can take like you know, like something that doesn't, like an MP3 player or something like that, that doesn't have internet capability for their music, but we're trusting the music will not be in English. It can be instrumental or it can be in the target language. Yeah, Charlene.
I have a comment about this. The teachers and parents and even the students themselves, they might feel really scared at the beginning, or they don't know how they're going to overcome not having their smartphone or not being able to speak English. But it's something that they go through. They transition so completely to the target language that when we travel back with them to the US and we land at the airport, I have seen with my own eyes, and I couldn't believe it, students who were not able to speak English with their parents the first few minutes that they got there. So they would stay in French, not to be, you know, like a snob or anything. It wasn't that at all. It's that you could tell that their brain had trouble adjusting back to English. And I've always thought that was amazing.
Mm-hmm. I remember that first moment of hearing good morning from people in Atlanta, and I hadn't heard English really for 11 months. I'm like, oh my word.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
And then we have students tell stories that, you know, they're in customs, they're talking with the customs officer in Atlanta, or, you know, wherever it may be, New Jersey, wherever it may be, and the customs officer is speaking to them in English and they can't respond back. You know, they're just like, you know. So you hear those funny stories, you know, from students. It takes some time, you know, before they can switch back to that. The program blogs are just enormously important. You know, instructors like Charlene, who are responsible for those blogs, I really stress to them what a key part of the program they are, because those photos, those captions in English that they provide to friends and family back home are a lifeline. So we will have, you know, parents tell us they're hanging on to the, you know, to the next update. And I encourage the instructors to update those blogs at least twice a week. And they do a really good job of.
That's great.
So.
I would add 2 things, if I may.
Yeah.
About the blogs. during the program, they are not visible to the public. So if you as teachers want to view the blogs, the student will have to send you the link, or our office can send you the link. Then once the students come back, then the blog is visible to the public, just to protect people's, these, underage people's privacy. And then in terms of personal devices, there's going to come a time in the next few years when dumb phones are not available to purchase, and we're going to have to figure it out. But for instance, last year we interviewed a young lady who has pretty severe diabetes, and she has an app on her phone that's connected to a device, some sort of sensor, and we were going to let her take her phone. They were going to have to turn off a lot of the capabilities, but then she could still have her phone, because that phone sends messages to her parents and, sets off alarms if her sugar gets too low or too high. So, I mean, this is an evolving thing.
Always, exactly, yeah.
And in Japan, they keep their phones.
In Japan, there's no such thing as the dumb phone. So Japan has a whole set of rules. They have to shut a lot of things off on their phone. And then when they are home, their phone has to be visible. It stays in one location, like in the living room of the house, and the students do not take it into their bedroom. Everyone has to be able to see where their phone is when they're in the home. So there's very specific rules, so that students are not not using and not relying on their smart devices. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Lonnie, if I could ask a question, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
when
no.
you say 1 hour per week on the internet time, is that in English with their family?
Yes, but it's not. Thank you for that. There's no video chatting. They can send messages in English. They can send like email messages, or they can be on Facebook, that type. They can type in English, but there's absolutely no speaking English during the program.
Okay. I never really thought about that. Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that, because that was something I had not mentioned.
Some kids will choose to send the messages in the target languages and ask that their parents use Google Translate.
Yeah. And it is interesting. Yeah. I mean, we hear from students who will just say, I just stopped using my internet time. That's very common, because they don't, for one thing, they're very busy. And another thing is they don't want to go into English. Or if they do, as Amy's saying, if they do send a message, they'll send it in the target language and just let people figure it out. Because, the more they get into the program, they don't want to break away, even for that hour a week. They really want to stay focused on their target language. So
it's commendable. Thank you for
that there's no guarantee the student's actually going to keep in touch with them every week. But if they have any concerns, they can check out the blog, and they can always call our office.
I have some students who send me an email to me, because they say, we don't even want to do any English. So they send them to me and say, it was really nice. Yeah.
Aww. Yeah. That's nice. So Charlene can speak to you about this as well. These are our typical subjects that are offered. Depending on the number of instructors, we keep a ratio generally of 7 to 9 students per instructor. So we'll have anywhere between 2 and 4 instructors at a program site. No more than 35 students at any given program site. In some cases, 30 students is the cap. So these can be really large programs. If we've got that many students, we're definitely going to have 4 instructors. And so these can be combined. For example, we might have grammar and communication as one course. We might have culture and literature as one course. But these are the subjects that are offered during the program. The instructors are responsible for developing their own curricula, their own materials. And there are certainly examples that we have from past years, from past programs that they can use, but they're educators, they're professionals, this is what they do. So this gives them an opportunity to develop those skills, to bring their own skill sets, their own personalities into the program. Someone like Charlene, who, is from France herself, there's just so much that she can offer in her materials because she's developing them herself. In the afternoon, they have what we very creatively call afternoon activities. There is always some type of sports component. As you can imagine, soccer is very popular all over the world. In most places, the students like to play soccer, but they'll do something, you know, that's sports oriented. There's also theater, dance, music. In our sites in Japan and Hangzhou, they have really amazing art classes that the students can take in the afternoons. And what a lot of these afternoon activities are leading up to what we call the farewell show at the end of the program, where they put on a performance for the host families. So a lot of times in the afternoon, they are rehearsing and they're working toward that program that they're going to present for their host families at the end of the program. And it could have skits, musical numbers, dance numbers. Sometimes students, the students themselves, as you know, are very talented. Sometimes they dance or they play a musical instrument or they sing. And so you may have students who want to do some type of solo performance for the host families as well. So the farewell shows are really exciting.
I've always recorded all of the farewell shows if you are interested. It's all on YouTube. It's not on the IUHPFL channel because I have my own YouTube channel, but maybe we should figure out a way to transfer them. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah,
It's all
sure.
on YouTube if you are curious.
Absolutely. And yeah, if you go to YouTube and you just search for IU Honors or IUHPFL, a lot of things come up and you can see all kinds of things there. So, okay. The excursions are also considered part of the academic experience because your culture instructor is going to be teaching about the excursion in advance. Where are we going? Why is it significant? Here's what we're going to see. Okay. So then when they go to the excursion, they already understand, you know, why they're there and why it's important. Anything else that you would want to add about classes, Charlene?
Not really. I mean, the subjects that we teach, you covered them. It's nice because I know in French and Spanish, at least at IU, so sometimes we have instructors who are Indiana high school teachers, but I think most of the times it's IU instructors, right? So in Spanish and Portuguese and the Department of Spanish and Portuguese and the Department of French and Italian, we have the French linguistics program, French literature program, and then they have the Spanish linguistics and Spanish literature programs. So the instructors are typically, you know, graduate students who are passionate about either linguistics and literature, and they typically teach according to what they do. And so, yeah, I don't know, you get language instructors that are specifically interested in linguistics or literature, so the kids get to learn a lot from very passionate teachers. It's what I've always seen, you know, extremely passionate about those things.
Yeah, one of the aspects of my job that I enjoy the most is I hire the instructors and I put together the teams, and so it's really neat to see what each person has to offer and what they're going to bring to that team. And as Charlene is saying, you know, to see these individuals and see what it is that they've done already in their careers and in their lives, and how are they going to come together then as an instructor team? What is it that they're going to be able to offer to their students? You know, and if we can have a high school teacher in the mix too, it's really nice because those individuals, you know, they understand the kids really well, and they can provide a lot of you know, wisdom as well. Now, someone like Charlene, who's been with the program already, of course, she knows our students very, very well. But sometimes when we have a new instructor coming in who's never really worked with high school students before, it's nice when you can have someone like Charlene or a high school teacher there to kind of say, this is a big deal and this is serious and this really isn't that serious and it's okay. You know, it's just nice to have someone there who knows that kind of thing. So host families. So how are they vetted? So Tammy, you asked this. At each of our program sites, we have individuals who are called our on-site coordinators. These are people who live in those host cities. They, you know, have raised their families in those host cities. And so we have worked with them in some cases decades. We have individuals in these communities who've been working with us for a very long time. It is their responsibility to find and vet the host families, and they also supervise the host families. They take this aspect of their work extremely seriously. They take a lot of pride in finding good families. We do not advertise publicly for our families. There's nothing in a newspaper or, you know, the bulletin board of the local laundromat, nothing like that. The host families are coming in through word of mouth, through existing relationships with our families. Sometimes we'll have, you know, you know, your mom and dad. Sometimes we'll have an older couple who's retired. Sometimes there are children in the home. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's a single mom or a single dad, you know. So we tell students our host families come in all shapes and sizes. They're really wonderful, wonderful people. They are opening their homes to our students, and they take really good care of them. As Amy was mentioning earlier, you know, that we may have an occasional challenge between a student and a host family. We look at those situations very carefully. The instructors become involved at that point if there, you know, is some kind of an issue. We are encouraging the student to try to, you know, resolve a situation if it's something that's come down to a misunderstanding. If it's something that's more serious than that, then we are going to take a look at it. And of course, if we have to take action, we will do so immediately. Thankfully, we don't have to move students around very often. But if we have to move a student, we will do that. We have a protocol that's put in place, and we waste absolutely no time in moving a student if we need to. So we get the question quite a bit. You know, parents will ask us, well, can I come during the program and visit my student? And the answer is no, big fat no. You cannot. So, you know, this experience is really for the student. It's for them to, you know, have that time of independence. If the family wants to meet up with the student at the very end of the program, they can do that. They can meet up with the student on the last day of the program or late the night before, depending on when the flight is home. If the group flight is leaving really early the next morning, then the parents can meet up with the student late at night after the pizza party, after all of that, you know. But we do, you know, every year there are quite a few parents, you know, families who will travel over, meet up with their student at the end of the program, and then they go on with further, you know, with family time and travel together, which is really nice. It's not uncommon for mom and dad to get to meet the host parents, you know, so sometimes they'll go back to the host city, and now mom and dad get to meet the host parents too, which is really fun. Any questions at this point? Okay. So these are 8 core values. We have a longer version of this where we describe what we mean by each one of these words, and we provide these in poster form in the target languages. So these are the words that we really want to keep in front of students because this is what we stand for. As I was mentioning earlier, we are a lot about teamwork. We don't want any of the students to feel left out. We don't want them to feel like they don't belong. You know, we are inclusive, we are accepting, and you know, we want every single student to know how much we value them. Our hope is that the students will really feel like they're part of a family with one another. You know, when the program is done, we want them to be very good friends and to continue those relationships. So I will tell students, you're not competing against each other. Each one of you is competing with yourself. You're competing against yourself, right? What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? Focus on that. It doesn't matter if this student over here, you know, has a more authentic accent than you think you do. It doesn't matter if this student over here has a wider range of vocabulary words. You know, that's not what this is about. This is about who are you? What do you have to offer? What do you want to accomplish? What are your goals? So we're also do a lot of work with the students on their goals, you know, setting tangible, measurable goals throughout the program. You know, where do you want to be 6 weeks from now, 5 weeks from now? Okay.
And can I just say something about that? In that picture, Chloe June, she was my student since she was in junior pre-K. So the one who won the second place, you know, and so she was my student since junior pre-K. And believe it or not, when I used to teach in that other school, I always told them since they were little. And I'm talking about you know, first grade, second grade, because I was their teacher all those years. And always when you get to be a junior, you're going to go to the program. So, you know, anyway. So Chloe was in Spanish 3 when she was a sophomore. So she said, should I go or not? And I said, go as a sophomore. But I'm going to be going with the juniors and they're not in my class. And I said, you are in that level that you can go. And now she was able to go and all her friends couldn't because of the pandemic. So she cannot be so much happy to be able to be as a sophomore there. So encourage your kids, even though they're sophomores, they don't have to wait with their class. Let them go when they are in that level to go, you know, and she was so ready. And now she like, I'm the only senior who actually went to the program. So, you know, we're so happy that she did. Sorry, I needed to
No, I'm
share
really glad
that.
you mentioned that. Yeah, because it really does, as you're saying, Lorraine, it has everything to do with readiness.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
and if you have a student, you know, in their sophomore year, and you can
yes.
they've got the maturity, they've got the gumption, you know, and I really think, you know, it's having the ability to have a sense of humor about yourself, not taking yourself too seriously, you know,
Yep,
not
yep.
being afraid to make mistakes, you know. So if you see a student who's really ready, then absolutely. Okay. So yeah, as I was talking about this team building, it's just a really, really big part of what we do in this program. We also provide community engagement activities for the students. So this is something that we've really been working on during my time with the program. It had started before I came on board, primarily in our program site in Chile. And we've just expanded this over the years. It's generally 2 or 3 afternoons out of the program, and there's all different kinds of projects that are put together. The instructors oftentimes help put these kinds of projects together. They might have a great idea. I know Charlene has had some wonderful ideas. The on-site coordinators can have great ideas. So, you know, it's really just all of us coming together and saying, this is something really cool that the kids could do, because we want to get them out into the community. We want them to have different views of what's going on in the community. Because the more we can do that and get them out there, meet new people, you know, see what's going on locally, the more they start to feel like they're really members of that community. Like, this is what it would be like if I lived here, you know, these would be some things that I could get involved in if I lived here, you know. So these have just turned out to be incredibly positive experiences.
And also if the kids are in the IB program, like our kids, they use all those experiences in CAS. So for creativity and activity and social service. So it's just wonderful for them to write all those experiences for their, you know, for the IB program. So yes.
And they can count the hours for that. So on their final student evaluation,
yes,
the instructors record the number of hours that the students spent doing each activity, and then they can take those hours and apply it toward the IB. Thank you for mentioning that, Lorena.
Yeah, and that's very important, because a lot of kids say, oh, I'm going to lose all my summer because I need to do this many hours. So we always tell them, no, no, no. You're going to be able to do it because you're going to be climbing mountains. You're going to be doing all these activities for the farewell program. So you're going to have a lot of experiences, and you're going to be able to fill up your hours. So if you have those kind of programs, encourage your students to go ahead and do it.
Yeah. One of the stories that I really enjoy telling about this particular component of the program is in León, Spain. In the past, they've gone to an animal shelter, I guess we would call it, but it's mostly for dogs. And the students have been able to go walk dogs there. What is really cute, the instructors told me that there was a few students who did not feel comfortable speaking Spanish to humans at that point in the program, but they were comfortable speaking Spanish to the dogs. So this was like an icebreaker activity, you know, that it really helped the student kind of get over that challenge there, that hump. And then after that, you know, they felt more comfortable speaking Spanish. So I thought that was really cute. So our instructors, as we mentioned already, and here's Miss Charlene right here. Our instructors are either graduate students, PhD candidates at Indiana University, specializing in the language. And as Charlene was saying, oftentimes in, you know, culture, literature, or in linguistics. Or they are high school teachers throughout the state of Indiana. So wonderful people. Again, this is one of my favorite aspects of my job, is getting to work with our instructors and bringing them on board. And they, you know, they have all of this amazing experience themselves, as I said, that they bring to it. At least one instructor on every team has got to be CPR and first aid certified. So we make sure we pay for that certification. We make sure that at least one person every year has that type of training. When they're going on their excursions, there's always a first aid kit that goes with them. So I know, Charlene, you can speak a lot to this. What do our participants gain? I know you teachers as well, those of you who've been working with us, I'm sure that you've seen, you can speak to this as well. It's important for you to know, those of you who are new to IUHPFL, we do not offer direct college credit, okay? So the reason for that is because if we did that, then that means Indiana University would determine the curricula and the materials that we use. We don't want to do that. We want to continue to be professional development for our instructors. So we want them to develop their materials. We want, them to be able to bring their own unique experiences and talents into the program. But what we do see, as I mentioned earlier, it's very common for students to place very high at the university level and save themselves a lot of time and a lot of money that way. If they're going to take the AP test in their language, they are going to score higher. There's no question about that, which, as we know, can directly translate into college credit for them. Students will come back oftentimes saying, I know what I want to do in my career. I know I want to go on and get a minor. I want to major, So, a lot of self-confidence, a lot of clarity, things like that, that really come out of this. Does anyone want to add anything to this?
I think that helps by saying you're going to invest $6,000, $6,500, but you're going to save possibly this much money for a year or two of language credits that you have to pay for at university.
Yeah. Yeah, and we are able to do that, absolutely. Yeah, it's true. I think that was you, Jana. We do see, especially Dad. If we've got Dad in the audience, Dad will always, you'll see Dad like sit up in his chair. He's paying attention when I start talking about stuff like that. And so yeah, I agree with you. There's just so much valuable, so much value to the program. And I always, I'd love to do a shout out to our high school teachers, because really, truly, if it were not for you folks, please understand we would not exist. You are the conduit through which students learn about us and apply to our program. So we just can't thank you enough for everything that you do for us. And we know we ask you to do, quite a bit, writing the appraisals, supervising the writing samples, and so forth, reading our emails. We work really hard to keep our emails as organized and succinct as possible, but we know that, you are taking your precious time. I used to teach middle school and high school Spanish, so I understand very well where you are. And, I understand the kind of commitment that you are giving to us, and we just want to say very sincerely, thank you so much for sharing this journey with us. So eligibility, we've talked about this a little bit already. We are looking also for students, another thing that we do look for here is we want to make sure that the idea of participating in the IU Honors Program is the student's idea. We want to see that enthusiasm. A vast majority of the time, we do see that enthusiasm. We can tell it's the student who really wants to do this. Every now and then, once in a blue moon, we might ask ourselves, does this student really want to do this program, or what's going on here? So we might try to tease that out a little bit in an interview in the spring, just to find out, does the student really want to do this? Because they have to have buy-in. If they don't have buy-in, they're not going to enjoy it. They're not going to be successful. We like to see strong overall academic performance, and we really want to see that they've got very good grades in their world language classes. The application itself, and I'll talk to you about the components of that in a moment, it's pretty extensive. It's more demanding to get into our program, to apply for our program, than it is to apply for college. Having said all that, if we see that a student, is performing well academically, that they have good appraisals, that we're seeing good character, please know we want that student to participate. We're not looking for ways of making this difficult for students. We have a capacity right now of around, not next program, not in 2021, but in a normal year, we have a capacity for close to 400 students. So, we want students to participate in this program if they're ready. and we know that they can be successful. We want them. So in the past, we only had 3 program sites, or we had 5 program sites. We had many more students apply than what we had space for, okay? Because we've added Japanese and we've added Chinese, and we've got 5 programs in Spanish and so forth. We've flipped that. So we have room for students, and if they can be successful, we want them. So please know that. We'll do everything we can to help students to participate. This is a self-selecting program. We know that any kiddo who signs up for this to begin with and says, yeah, I'll do this, I'll take this on, we know that they're pretty special right there. It's not every student's going to say that. And yeah, I want to go to school in the summertime for 6 weeks. If they're willing to do that, then we already know that they're probably a good fit for the program. Any questions along these lines?
Where is the application accessible?
Amy.
So students will register, and then if they meet these eligibility criteria, we send them a link to their portal. So you can't actually see their application, but it has 7 components. And when they enter their portal and enter your name and email, then you'll get an email that says, please fill out the appraisal. And at the same time, I send you an email that says, here's the writing sample worksheet that you can fill out, that you can arrange a time to do it at any point before the deadline. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank
Okay.
you. And so I assume that right there, it says the 15th of November, which is coming up very soon.
That's when registration closes.
Okay.
But we've been known to reopen registration for someone who accidentally didn't hear about it. So.
Okay.
And especially this year, we're being very fluid. We're trying to be as fluid as we can.
Okay.
Even with the application dossier, we can extend that deadline. We've got it set at December 6th right now, but we can extend that a little bit if we need to. So, we're really trying to, we understand. I mean, if I were a parent right now, right, I'd be asking myself, why would I sign my child up for this program right now? So we understand that as we move forward, there will be more clarity. We've waived the $15 online registration fee this year, so students don't have to worry about that. We did have a student call today who said that the website says that the online registration fee is due, but we will change that and make sure that that's clear. And so, yeah, as Amy was mentioning, these are the components. There's the personal application form. It's short answers, some short essays, 3 or 4 paragraphs here or there that they have to answer some questions. It's pretty long. We're asking them different things, about their readiness and what are they excited about? What do they think is going to be challenging and so forth. The writing sample in the target language, it takes about 45 minutes from start to finish for the student to complete. You, of course, don't help them with that. You simply supervise. So you just make sure that they have a nice quiet space to do that. You provide them with the materials, and then they're on their own. And they don't have any resources available to them during that writing sample. Yes, go ahead, Amy.
They shouldn't know the questions until that moment.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a comment about that for you guys to think about. So since I've been teaching students at home and in person, I've had to do all the homework digitally, except for a little bit by hand. So in Chinese script, when they type it, they use sound to type it. But writing by hand, because they haven't had as much opportunity to do that this year, because it's digital homework, they may not be able to produce the handwritten language. So that's something you might want to talk to your graders about, if you understand.
Right. What would you recommend?
So I would recommend giving them the prompt and the teacher watching the student as they type on the computer, so they're not using any dictionaries or anything. So.
Okay. So how do you would do all of that virtually, or you would do that in the classroom?
Oh, well, when they actually fill out the prompt, yeah, I wasn't thinking about they're there when they do it, but they haven't had the practice writing by hand. So if they're not there, I would ask them to come in for that part, because we have state tests sometimes they have to come in for.
I see. Okay.
But
So
it's muscle memory writing by hand, and it's so different
okay.
than
Well, I
typing.
tell you what, we will just, that's something that we will trust you teachers to manage that the best way that you see possible. You'll get those materials, and then we trust
Okay.
you to manage that the way that you need to.
Alrighty. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So one academic appraisal is obviously from you, the world language teacher. Another academic appraisal is from another teacher of the students, math teacher, science teacher, etc. One non-academic, this cannot be a relative. So this is a coach, an employer, a mentor, someone like that. The parental assessment, this used to be part of the acceptance materials, not the application. We found that it's very useful at the application stage because, for one thing, it lets mom and dad know that the student wants to do this program.
Yes.
The parents found themselves being very shocked in the spring that their student had applied for this. So now, you know, the parents are aware of what's going on. And we have found that they're really candid. They see, you know, and most, when you say, Amy, I mean, they're very honest and just forthright about their student. You know, where will their student have strengths and where might their student struggle. They seem to be very forthcoming with that kind of information. So and then they have then we, of course, we get a copy of the high school transcript. So and then this is just our general timeline that we normally follow, as we were saying. For interviews, we do interview some students, and I stress whenever I'm able to give a presentation to the students, please don't feel bad if you're called in for an interview. It could be anything from someone mentioned that you have food allergies, or, you know, sometimes a student will say, I'm terrified of dogs, or I've never been on an airplane before and I'm really nervous about it, you know, or I have a medical condition, so forth. You know, when we're sitting down doing an interview with a student, we're simply asking, how can we support you during the program? What do you need from us? So it's not anything they have to be nervous about. We do not test for the language anymore during the interview. That's not the purpose of the interview. We end up interviewing generally, I'd say 30 to 40, 50% of our students every year. 30 to 40% is probably more accurate now. So, and then we've got the date set for orientation, but I will tell you, we have absolutely no idea what these are like this year. We don't know if it's going to be virtual. We have no idea, but we've got 2 dates reserved at the Indiana Memorial Union here on campus. We don't even know which languages they're going to be yet, really, because with smaller enrollment, you know, we may do French and Spanish on the same day, or who knows, you know, Chinese and Spanish on the same day. We just don't know yet how we're gonna do it, but we do have those dates. So we talked about the program fees, spending money. You know, this is really up to each individual student. Everything's covered except for we tell them to be prepared to pay for maybe 4 to 6 of their own meals throughout the program. If they're in an airport, if they're in a large city, this kind of thing, you know, it's just nice for them to know that there will be times where they'll have to buy their own meals. But otherwise, everything else is covered completely. So spending money is really up to the students and their parents. And then these are the different fundraising sources that I was telling you about. Now, our German students are, you know, in a great place because we get quite a bit of support from IU Germanic Studies here at IU. They'll generally give 1,000 to 1,500 automatic or 1,200 automatic scholarship to each Graz participant from that department. So, any questions at this point?
I would just add that they should definitely bring money for ice cream. Otherwise, all the other kids will be going for ice cream and they won't.
Ice cream and pastries.
Churros.
Yes, churros. That's right. Exactly. Okay, so yeah, any questions at all that you might have about the program? Any other comments that you might want to share, Charlene or Amy? So Elizabeth and Abigail, I'm curious to know, have we done a good job kind of letting you know what the program's about?
Yes, absolutely. The screen, what you were showing, I could not see any of it. So is there a place where on your website is the information that you were giving tonight there? Is that what you were reading from?
Oh, so you haven't been able to follow along on the PowerPoint?
No, but I was just watching.
Oh my God.
You were watching me talk. So
Yeah.
The rest of you, were you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So I'll tell you what, Elizabeth, why don't I just email this to you?
That would be great.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll be happy to do that for you. Now, I had another slide here, and I think I have shared with you a different version. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit. If you just bear with me, if you don't mind bearing with me for just a second here, let me see something really quickly, because my intent was to share with you a version that I mentioned COVID on it, and I want you to be aware of a few things.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about COVID.
Yeah. So I thought I was sharing with you.
So now Elizabeth is going to get that one.
Okay, so let me see something really quickly. Did I do this? I did. Okay. So
Yes.
let me just show you really quickly. So these are some considerations, just where we are right now. Of course, you know, everything's up in the air. But because we're working with minors, it has already been determined that every host country must be at a level 1 in order for our students to go there.
Yeah.
Okay, so level 1 designation by the U.S. State Department. This means there can be no quarantining requirements upon arrival, no social distancing, no masks, things like that, okay? So we would have to be at a point where it is completely safe for our students to go there. Right now, I checked today, every single one of our host countries is at a level 3.
And they don't allow Americans either.
I'm sorry?
They don't allow Americans.
Right, and that's the other side of it. That's the other side. But level 3 means for us to reconsider travel. It's a very strong advisory against going there, okay? Then, as you're saying, Lorena, the next consideration is, will these countries even let us in their borders?
Yep.
And a lot of them are saying, not at this time.
Yeah.
So another consideration is obviously, will the vaccine be readily available in time? We surveyed our 2020 applicants and their parents in August, and many of the parents came back and said, I will not allow my student to participate unless there's a viable vaccine.
Yes.
Which we can understand.
Yeah.
So where we are right now, I talked to my supervisor just today, in fact, and she said, we believe that after the first of the year is when we're going to be able to really have more information and take a closer look at this, see kind of where we are. And then, we will circle back around and let all of you know.
Lonnie, may I ask a question just for a minute?
Yes.
If we do go and the kids are there in the summer, if things change and COVID rears its ugly head again, and if they do indeed happen to be quarantined there during July or June or July, do you have a contingency plan for that? What would you do with them?
Well, if they were quarantined, they would simply be in their host families' homes, right? We would not be able to extend the program. They would have to honor the group flights. So this is why we just would not be able to take any level of risk, right? I mean, it really speaks to what your concern is, Denise. If it's not safe, if there is any level of risk, and these kiddos have to be quarantined for any period of time, it simply means that they are going to miss out on that chunk of time in their program.
But if it's safe at the point when you go and then it just happens to come up again while we're there,
then depending on the severity of it, either they would quarantine or they would come home. It really just depends on the severity.
Okay.
And we do have, Indiana University is able to bring people home. If there's emergency evacuation, we can do that. That's covered under the umbrella of Indiana University. If we have to do an emergency group evacuation, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, yeah, just we're living in really unprecedented times. Okay.
Yeah, because right now in Spain, because I watch Spain news every day, I have the channel and my friends too, and yeah, it's go back home right now. Mexico, forget it. Mexico, they haven't even been having classes since March. Everybody's online since March. in Mexico. So it's
Yeah.
devastating.
In
Mhm.
Mexico, they have all the classes on TV, right?
Yeah, if you, yes, yeah, for public schools, yes. And like some teachers, with the poor people, they will just go with a, whiteboard on the corner of the street, and all the kids will come out from their houses, and they will listen to the teacher, from the corner to the street. I
Wow.
mean, it's just
To be very creative.
bless their heart,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Very sad.
But they're making it work. I just, that gives me goosebumps, that's determination right there.
Yeah.
Okay. And Charlene and Amy, can you think of anything else that you might like to add?
No, I mean, we'll be in touch, and we try to limit our emails to you. Sometimes it's a little repetitive just in case you missed it the first time, but we are always available. We try to answer emails very promptly. So if you have a question, or your students have a question, we really encourage you to email.
Yeah, you're wonderful. You're wonderful on that.
There's nothing I can think to add, and there's a lot to talk about that I could talk about IUHPFL for hours. I just want to say it's an amazing program, and like Lonnie said, at the end of the program, when students participate, they become a different person, and in a good way. And I wish that for every high school student.
Yes.
So I really, really hope they will get to go this summer.
I could end on a really funny note, just one story that I'm going to follow up with that. One of the parents phoned me, I think about a week, maybe 2 weeks after their student came back from Saint-Brieuc. And her two questions were, number one, when is my kid going to be able to speak English again? Because they can't even think in the language. They're at the dinner table and it's all. And the second thing is they are so independent that I have to rein them in, because they're used to being independent on their own, and now they're empowered to do what they want when they want, and they're forgetting to ask permission. They just go. And so I had to laugh, but I thought, that speaks volumes. That's great. They're more mature. It empowers them to be more adult, to make their own decisions. That's amazing. That is really a good product, not only linguistically, but personally for them, a lot of personal growth. So it is life-changing for sure.
And it kind of sets them off to be ready for college.
Yeah, I wish I'd had the opportunity, because the first time I'd gone overseas to Paris, it was with a student group. And as a teacher leader, it's nice to know what you're doing. I was aiming for the Eiffel Tower. We ended up at Chinatown. So, my first time there, had no idea. So that's awful. But we finally found the tower. It was kind of late. It was closed, but it's not ideal. And so this opportunity for these kids at this point is such a blessing, such a wonderful thing for them to be involved in. It's just, you can't put a price tag on it. There's no way. It's just an invaluable experience. So thank you for offering it.
Yeah.
Thanks for accepting my kids. We're very appreciative.
Yes. Oh my goodness. The students who apply for this program are just incredibly, they're talented, and so it's our pleasure.
Thank you.
So Elizabeth, I want to make sure that I have your correct email address. So if you wouldn't mind sending me, if you'd like, you can send me an email at LDISHONG, Eldishon, LDISHONG @indiana.edu. And if you reach out to me, I'll make sure that you're in our database, that everything's current for you, that we've got your email address, and I'll go ahead and send you the PowerPoint that I used tonight.
Pretty sure it's in our database.
Yeah, I would expect your name to be. I just want to make sure that that you're in there.
So Lonnie, next year in September, are you going to come to my school and talk to my kids?
If you would like for me to,
oh my gosh, that'd be so great.
I enjoy it, absolutely. So keep in touch with us. When we send out the launch email in August, that email asks, if you would like to have a school visit, please let us know, that type of thing. So
I sure will.
yeah, it's fun.
I wish I was a teenager again. You know, I just, to be able to go on something like that, that is just incredible.
Yeah.
To watch what happens to kids when you know, just take a 5-day tour to Puerto Rico. They're like, oh, but to be 5 or 6 weeks in the target language and come back sounding so amazing.
And to, you know, to really get to be a part of that culture for that amount of
I
time.
know.
You know, you're not a tourist.
So different.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're actually a member of that community during that time, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know my 11 months in Argentina was so valuable.
Oh,
Just-
I've never been. I'd love to go to Argentina.
Oh, it just changed who we were because of living there.
Mhm.
So,
What a gift. What a gift. So,
well, thank you, ladies, very much.
Thank you.
everybody, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing with your students that we'll be back here tomorrow night at 6 o'clock for them. And we look forward to talking with them and answering their questions tomorrow night and Thursday night too. If they need us, we'll be here. So,
Okay.
Super.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Bye.